would impact upon them, but that's just is what's driving people out. A couple of your callers were 86 years old, another 80-some-odd years old. It's the older folks in New Jersey who just can't afford to live in our state because the cost of government is just pushing them out of the state.
And our next call is from New Jersey. Mike joining us from Ogdensburg. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Bear with me, Steve. I'm a little nervous. This is my fourth time calling, and I'm still nervous.
Well, now, why are you nervous?
I don't know.
I mean, if you've called in 3 times already, there is no need for you to be nervous.
Of course there is. People aren't used to talking on the air.
Well, turn the volume down. You're just talking to us, and the forum is yours, so go ahead.
All right, first of all, regulation. We've already have a bunch of regulators out there who haven't done their job. I mean, the only way Bernie Madoff got caught is because he couldn't pay the people off, so of course he was exposed. And that was just one of many people. And Mr. Garrett, you've done your phone town hall meetings, and you call my house all the time. But from what I see in here, it seems that every time a Democrat gets to ask a question, we conveniently get disconnected, or all of a sudden you have to go to the floor or something. But there's many things that the average person needs to talk about.
Okay, Mike, let me stop you on that point and stay on the line. We'll follow up with you.
30 seconds.
Hold on, Mike.
Hold on. Basically, we do these teletown hall meetings, and I think they're pretty neat. They're usually, we do them for about an hour. I've never had to leave to go to the floor during the course of the hour, and we just take the calls, actually, Mike, as they come in. And we take them in. We'll let the person go on a little bit, like we do right here, as far as asking the question, and then I answer the question. So they just basically, it's a lot like this, like a radio or a TV call-in show. We just take them right down in order. So we don't know whether we're getting Republicans, Democrats, or independents or anything. Next question.
Well, he's still on the line, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true, because that's what you've told us. Also, as far as what the Democrats have done, I mean, since becoming disabled, you know, I've been watching since 9/11 as far as what my government's doing in our name. And the Republicans have voted in lockstep. They've also had those 3 o'clock in the morning votes. They've had the Bush and the Cheney meetings with the oil companies that sort of pushed that market way up over itself. See, now I'm getting nervous. But there were many things that the Republicans had done themselves to put them in this situation, and you guys still won't come out and tell the truth. You still sit there and spin like a wheel.
Okay, Mike, let's give the congressman a chance to respond. Appreciate the call.
Sure, appreciate the call. Mike is actually up in my neck of the woods, up in, if he's from Ogdensburg, up in Sussex County. Mike then probably knows my track record on this. When President Bush was the president, I opposed him on a number of issues, on the budget, on the spending, on some aspects of the of his war strategy and what have you, and I've spoken on those things. So, you know, Mike, when you say speaking in lockstep, well, that's not quite true with me. Maybe overall for the party, you make that argument for my record. Certainly on the fiscal issues, I was always opposing him on the spending sides and the like. So we didn't always do it. And now we're obviously in a much worse situation than we were under the Bush administration. You know, back then people were complaining about the Bush administration, a deficit around $427 billion, and saying, oh, that's too high, and we're going to only get it down to half of that in 5 years. Well, now, Mike, you know, we're looking at $1.4, $1.6 trillion in deficit, and no plan even to get that down to the 400 range. Even if half of that is going to be more than whatever was during the Bush administration. So, yes, I agree with you. During the previous administrations, lots of problems with spending and the war strategy and what have you. But we're even in a worse situation now, and we need to do something about it.
We have time for one more call. Mike. Another Mike from Texarkana, Arkansas. Good morning, with Congressman Scott Garrett of New Jersey.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can. Good morning. Good
morning, Representative Garrett.
Hey, morning.
I have a question. Changing gears just a tad here. I assume since you're a Republican, you're voting against the public option or government-ran health care. Is that true?
That is absolutely true.
Hey, could I ask you a question? I'm a disabled veteran.
Okay.
I'm total and permanent, meaning I'm 100% service-connected.
Okay.
I can't work. I can't do anything. I have to go to the VA hospital in Little Rock, which, by the way, is excellent government-ran health care. Are you listening to me? It's government-ran. It's socialized medicine. Okay. If it's so bad, then why do you send me to the worst possible medical facility that you could think of if it's so bad?
Well, actually, I've proposed, and appreciate the call, and no, I don't say that the VA system is so bad. But I have proposed the idea that to give folks like you the option to go to other facilities as well. Because I do hear from some constituents, quite candidly, who go to certain VA facilities around the country, that they are not quite as happy with their facilities and their treatment and their doctors as you are. God bless you that you have a facility in your neck of the woods that's close by. I assume it's close by to you, that you're able to travel to easily and get to and good. But I often question, why do we treat our vets in this manner to say that they have to go to just that one? What if the case was in your situation that the only VA facility was, miles and miles away and you had no way to get there? Shouldn't we give you the option to go someplace else? So while the VA may be good, I think that you should be given additional choices. And so, just like with the rest of the American public, while they may have some facilities nearby that are good or not good, the American public should be given other choices as well. We shouldn't just mandate just one size fits all for anyone, really.
Before we let you go,
Sure.
Will there be any Republican votes for the health care bill as it moves now to the House floor?
Republican votes for the health care bill? No, I don't see that happening.
Not a single one?
I can't, not the scuttlebutt that I'm hearing, no. Because, especially because right now that we're here, as far as the House is concerned, is that the public option is in there, and the public option really just basically takes away the freedom of choice for the folks at the end of the day, because it will limit it.
New Jersey Congressman Scott Garrett, Republican, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Joining us from the White House is Jared Bernstein, Chief Economist and Economic Advisor to the Vice President. Mr. Bernstein, thanks very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Let me begin by asking you a general question. How would you and how does the White House define a recovery?
That's a great question. Economists, and I am an economist, define a recovery in a specific way, largely having to do with whether real GDP, gross domestic product, the broadest measure of goods and services in the economy, is growing. Now, for a good while now, of course, GDP has been contracting, but private forecasts, not our own, private forecasters are quite confident that in the third quarter of this year, the quarter that just ended a few weeks ago, GDP expanded. It was positive, perhaps in the realm of 2 to 3%. Now, that's the technical definition. But your question, which is very on point, was how do we at the White House define a recovery? And that takes you to one word, and that's jobs. Until the job market is providing robust monthly job opportunities for American working families to be able to recoup some of the losses they've made over this recession and get ahead, it's not a full-fledged recovery by any means from our perspective.
I'd like to take you and our audience back to February 2007 when candidate Barack Obama talked about the economy and jobs in his announcement speech in Springfield, Illinois. Here's what he said.
And as our economy changes, let's be the generation that ensures our nation's workers are sharing in our prosperity. Let's protect the hard-earned benefits their companies have promised. Let's make it possible for hard-working Americans to save for retirement. Let's allow our unions and their organizers to lift up this country's middle class again. We can do that. Let's be the generation that ends poverty in America. Every single person willing to work should be able to get job training that leads to a job and earn a living wage that can pay the bills and afford child care so their kids can have a safe place to go when they work. We can do this. And let's be the generation that finally, after all these years, tackles our health care crisis.
It has been 10 months, only 10 months, but so far, how's he doing on those promises?
Well, I was struck by the last sentence there. Let's be the generation that finally gets us to health care reform. On that hugely important measure, I think the President is doing not just well, but historically, importantly, well and effective. Look, on those other measures you mentioned, those are still not just goals of the President, but goals of our administration and the Vice President. You're talking to the Executive Director of the Vice President's Middle Class Task Force that was convened via executive order by the President to accomplish precisely those goals he mentioned. However, when we got here, In fact, before